Hi, Brooke. Sorry for not getting this back to you last night. I forgot that we also had the Santa Claus Parade float meeting last night where we're building the Santa Claus Parade float for the school. So here's the question that you asked me about, and so let's go over it in a little bit of detail and I'll explain what we do, okay? The first question is asking about the dependent variable, and the dependent variable is the one that depends on something else. In this case, when we're looking at the mark and the classes missed, then our hypothesis is that the mark is affected if your attendance is good or bad. And so the number of classes missed is going to be the independent variable, and the mark is going to be the dependent variable. And so we'll put a D here for mark and an I here for independent for the classes missed, okay? So when we do our scatter plot, that helps us determine what goes on what axis, and so the independent variable always goes on the x-axis, and so we're going to have number of classes missed, and then on the y-axis we're going to have the mark of the student, okay? So I'll let you plot the points for your scatter plot, and then you can do your regression line, which is just trying to draw it right through the middle so that most of the points are the same distance from the line. And that's what we're looking for with the regression line. If you're having trouble with that, just because it's hard for me to do this on the iPad without a grid and so on, just go to one of the graphing calculator sites like MetaCalculator and throw all these data points in the chart there and just go into the statistical calculator, and it will do the regression line and the scatter plot for you, and you can have a look and make sure that yours matches. So the regression equation is a little bit more involved, and so let's just look at that a little bit. Here's what I suggest when you do the regression equation. You're going to need certain information for that. And if you make a little chart and calculate it all beforehand, I think that you'll find it so much easier when it comes to calculating A and B. So the things that we need to find are the sum of x, the sum of y, the sum of xy, and we don't really need the sum of y squared, I don't think, because that's not part of either one of the formulas that we're going to use. So these are the only ones. Oh, no, sorry. The other one I'm looking for is the sum of x squareds, okay? So I really think it's easier if you calculate those first, and then we can pop them into the formulas as needed. So I've gone ahead and done that. So the sum of x means just take all of your independent variables, so these guys right here, and just add them up. And if you do that, you'll get 71. The sum of y is going to be all of your dependent variables, so it's this top line of your chart. And if you add those up, you get 556. Now, the sum of xy just means that I want you to take the numbers like for each of these letters, so the x and the y values for student A, and multiply them together. So you would get like 180 here, and then you're going to add it to the product of 76 times 7 plus 55 times 13, and so on. And that's going to give us a total of 4,446. And the last one that you want to do is the sum of x squared. And you have to be careful there because you can't just go back here and square it. This is adding up the sum of all the x values squared. So first you square them, then you add them. And so for instance, it would be like 4 squared plus 7 squared plus 13 squared and so on. If you do that, you're going to end up with a sum of x squareds of 793. And you don't need the sum of y squared for the formulas that we're doing here. So when we're doing our regression equation for C, we need to calculate A and we need to calculate B, because we're really making a y equals mx plus b equation. A is really the slope of our linear equation. They just don't call it m in this case. For statistics, we call it A. So when we're calculating A, we have to use that scary-looking formula. But when you've already pre-calculated all of these things, I think it's really much more simple, because then you can just pop them all into the equation. Times x squared minus the sum of all the x's squared. The only number that you can't just pop right in is this one here. And what you have to do there is take the sum of the x's and square the answer. So that'll be 71 squared. So when you put all those values into your equation, then I think we end up with 8 being the number of data values that we have for x and for y, times 4446 minus 71 times 556, all over 8 times the sum of your x squareds, which we said was 793, minus 71 all squared. If you work that out, I think you're going to get negative 2.999 or something like that, almost negative 3 if you want to round it off. And that's the slope of the regression formula, or the straight line that we're trying to find the equation for. So we also need to find the b value, and I'm running out of space here on this screen, unfortunately. I'd like to keep it all on the same screen because I've got all the numbers in front of me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just write up at the top here. Just let me change my colors. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to find B. Oh, that's not a good color. Let's use blue. B, oh, sorry. Okay, start again. B equals the sum of the y's values over n minus a times the sum of the x values over n. So that a is this a, and we need to bring that up and put it into the formula. And so if you put your values in, the sum of the y, and we're taking that from here again, is 556 over 8 minus negative 3 for a, times the sum of the x values, which is 71, over n. And if you work that out, you're going to get a b value around 96.1, somewhere around there, okay? So our equation, our linear equation, is y equals mx plus b, or in this case, y equals ax plus b. And so the linear equation that we come up with for this particular regression line is y equals negative 3x plus 96.1. Now that's going to allow us to answer the other questions. If we want to predict the marks for the 2 students who missed 3 classes and 10 classes, all we want to do there is take that x and change it to a 3 and work out the mark, and then take it and change it to a 10, sorry, we're just subbing in, and then you're going to work out the mark, which is y, okay? Now, the coefficient of determination and the coefficient of correlation, they take a little bit more in terms of calculations, but you've already got all of those sums of x's, y's, and xy's and all that stuff figured out. So it's just a matter of popping those back into the equation. So what I'm going to do is do a separate video for you, since I'm out of room on this screen, and it's getting long, and sometimes YouTube won't accept it when it's a long video. So I'm going to make you a second video where I go over G and H, okay? And that's coming soon.